Live from Ottawa, it's RailChat 11 with Rail Fans Canada. Come along and join your two hosts, Shane and David.
Good evening to everyone. I'm Shane, David at my side. And today we have a lot to talk about because we had O-Train line 2 and line 4 open just on Monday. It's only been Monday. It's only been a couple days.
Yeah.
And yet it feels like it's been open for a couple weeks.
Well, the number of time I've been on the train at this point feels like I've been there the whole week. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so we have a lot to talk about. As you can see, I'm virtually on the train here.
Mm.
And David's coming to us live from the Rail Fans Canada studios.
Well,
And so
that's where the magic happens, of course.
yeah,
Well,
magic.
magic. Okay, me spending, well, for those that don't know, obviously I'm still working on the project update video about all projects in Canada for 2024. And this one is going to be massive, to put it mildly. It's about 24 minutes, but for those that don't know how video editing works, to have a 24-minute video, you're not spending just 24 minutes. So
Mhm. Well, I mean, even when I record, when I write, oh, they're McCafe. When I write scripted videos, because I don't do many of those. I find those are a lot of work, right? Like the ones where you ad lib it and you just kind of go out and you do your thing, or there's an event and you're covering it like with like a journalistic approach.
Yeah.
I find those are really straightforward to edit because you're just following the narrative and the sequence of how things went. So you're just cleaning it up, and I find those typically, ironically, seem to do better than the ones. Well, at least the ones that I've planned out haven't always done super well. So it's not motivation to do them very often. But when you do plan it out and you have a script and you kind of read it,
yeah.
and then when you actually record it, it's like you're either speaking faster or you're speaking slower, but you have to do multiple takes because then every now and then you're going to start misspeaking or misspoke, and you have to repeat, and then you have like a recording that's like 50 some minutes, and
For a 20-minute
that's a lot of
video
fun
at
to edit
most.
afterwards. Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a video we're looking forward to, and you know, David, you're really in the thick of these things right now. Eglinton and Finch West, the opening date, please, if you will.
Let me ask my eight. I forgot my magic 8 balls. So honestly, they say second half of 2025. I'll be bold. I'll say third, fourth of 2025. So I think September. But I'm going with the hot take. I feel Eglinton's gonna open before Finch West.
Well, see, at one point I was thinking the opposite. Well, I mean, I think everybody was thinking it would have been open 2 years ago, but
Womp womp womp.
like if you look at the pictures that they put out 2 years ago, you're like, okay, this looks pretty done. And then you get a few months later a picture, well, where this station is nearing completion or the excavation is, well, I don't know. It's very confusing what's going on there.
Yeah, but
So hopefully we get some more clarity this year because obviously everybody's probably a little
miffled.
tired of, yeah. Well, I mean, you see trains circulating back and forth on the line for 1 or 2 years now. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say, like on the project planning perspective, I don't know why that went like that, but it's if we think about stage 2, like if we look at starting with line 2, like if we look at it, obviously when they start doing work, it's the most visible work normally. It's the excavation, it's the structural work, it's the track laying, and after that you have a lull that happens. It's like from the moment you have dynamic testing starting, you have a lull with what happens in the background, and this is the part that obviously as external observers, without actual information from the agencies themselves or the builders of any given project, we have no real clue about what's happening, and we're left in the dark. So externally it looks complete, but in practice it's not anywhere near complete, and that it's the what do they say, like the a watch kettle doesn't boil, or I'm mixing up my idioms here, but it's a kind of situation that the more attention we give to it, the slower it seems to go, even though that
Mhm.
it's probably progressing at pace and that's the normal course of things. But hey, we're
Yeah.
outside of it, so we don't know.
Like the analogy I would give is, when you move from one house to another
Yeah,
and you're packing and you're loading your stuff outside in the truck or someone's doing it, and let's say you got about 90% of the stuff out, the boxes, the furniture, everything's out. And it's like, oh, well, I got a couple bags here and I got a box there and I still got some dishes over here. The toilet brush is still there. I got a vacuum here, a shelf still with books. And then that ends up taking, you got everything else out
yeah,
in about, let's say 2, 3 hours. And then this little amount that should have probably fit in about maybe 10, 15 boxes, or at least if it was all congregated in one spot, you would theoretically think it would go out in 20 minutes, and it takes like hours and hours. And it's
yeah.
like, you know,
See,
I
that's
mean,
that's
not
why I
that
don't
we've
give
moved in
estimates
the past while,
nowadays.
but it's been at least 4 or 5 years. But anyways,
Hmm.
pretty crazy stuff. Okay, so let's talk about some fun stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to talk about the theoretical. We're not going to talk about fantasy. We're going to talk about.
So no Bank Street subway chat here.
Yeah, no, that's not allowed, David. We
Damn it.
discussed it. Okay. So if we look here, we have OC Transpo, we have O Train. Wow, that really disappears. And the colors. But anyways, these are the lanyards that they gave out at the dress rehearsal, and we actually snagged a couple ourselves. And we're going to talk about the O Train right now because that's what's hot and hot in our minds right now.
Yeah.
And like we said before, the O Train Line 2 and Line 4 opened on Monday. We were out there bright and early. If you caught our live stream, we're online at 5:45. First train, I think, arrived at the station about 6 and
Yeah.
departed around 6:07. And it was a lot of fun. It was a cold day, but it was a lot of fun. And it's great that these lines are back because it's inconceivable to understand how people could be going to Carleton with the bus service because it is definitely a significant downgrade over what the train offers as far as frequency and capacity and speed. But the
Yeah.
system is fantastic. The stations are really nice. They're eye-catching. They have heated shelters now. The trains are
The fact we're talking about
spectacular.
heated shelters as like, wow, it's a revolution kind of thing is problematic.
But I mean, that's like a common point, right? Like a
Yeah.
lot of people say, well, line one doesn't have any sheltered areas. There's no heating. There's no platform screen doors, which would help create like this
Yeah.
climate controlled area. But I mean, line two previously had bus style shelters, so they did provide some shelter, but mostly from the rain or from a bit of the wind, but you
Mm.
weren't really warm in there, right? Now we have shelters. Each station has one Transecure shelter that is heated, and they have multiple other shelters typically. And
Yeah.
even the ones that aren't heated are still warm because they have fully closing doors, sealed at the top and the bottom, and perimeter glass all the way around. So it creates like this nice, warm, sheltered atmosphere to be able to
Yep.
wait in, which is ironically an upgrade over line one. It's a little too bad the line one didn't have shelters like that, but
And now time for devil's advocate. What's supposed to be the frequency on line one normally?
oh, we're gonna talk about that right now.
No, but I'm just
Well, I
all I'm
mean, it's
gonna say.
supposed to be 4 or 5 minutes.
There you go. If you build a transit station with the idea that people are gonna wait 4 or 5 minutes,
Mhm.
I think you're way less inclined to care about how warm it is, because people are gonna be on the train in maximum 4 or 5 minutes. Normally, that's all. I'm not going further on that subject. Like I think we'll keep it for later. Like
Yeah,
there's definitely something to talk about there. But
yeah.
like
Well, I mean,
don't.
if you've been following my chats this morning, there I have some stuff to say about
Oh,
the
I know,
waiting,
I know.
but and the
Like
South Key shelter, we'll talk about that later. But I mean, we're going to talk about the fun stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
they started really good. We had a meetup. Lots of people came out, and I think the amount of people that came out on Monday morning was, well, I talked to some people at OC, and they were pretty much blown away by the amount of people that showed up. I think it was probably like 2 or 3 times what they were expecting, at least at Bayview. And for me personally, I was expecting maybe like 10, 20 people. I
Yeah.
don't know why I thought it was going to be that low, but it's early in the morning. And I guess, you don't know what to expect, right? Are people actually going to
Yeah.
show up in numbers? It's a cold morning, 6 a.m. in the morning. Who's going to show up for that, right? But people did come and people had a great time. That's a given.
Mm. Yeah, it
And
was great to meet so many people that obviously we speak on either on the Discord, see in the comments on YouTube, or on social medias, and like to actually talk with them in person, see their experience on the line, and well, I have a few rants about a few things along the way because that's part of the fun. Try to find weird things that are mistakes per se or
Mhm.
not supposed to be done that way, so it's always interesting. It was really great to meet everyone, and hopefully we have the opportunity to do it sooner than later with well, line 1 in the east, potentially maybe a Toronto one, maybe a Montreal one, who knows,
Yeah.
depends how lucky
And
we are with
maybe
openings.
Yeah, and maybe come April, if they do go ahead with like an official opening for
Yeah.
line 2 and line 4, which they said, and they call it a marquee event.
Mm.
So, you're probably going to be some swag, like the paper cutouts of the trains, maybe lanyards. Particularly, I'm more interested in the lanyards than the magnets, but I know a lot of people really like the magnets. But I mean, we might have an opportunity of doing our little get together or some sort of gathering once again in April.
The Rail Fans Canada barbecue. No, actually, yeah, no. Well, let's try not to get kicked from an event like the someone shows up with a propane barbecue right outside the station. Just yeah,
Yeah, that might be a little awkward.
yeah,
But yeah, what was I gonna say there? It was a good outing, and it was fun to
yes,
meet up with a lot of people.
totally,
And I know for me and for David, we had people throughout the week when we were out riding the train. I know you mentioned that you had a few, and I had quite a few as well.
yeah,
Coming up to us and saying, "Oh, you're Rail Fans Canada. Oh, I really like the videos, or I saw the stream." So it's really nice to hear the feedback that people enjoy the
definitely, yeah.
content, because it gives us reason to continue. It's like we would continue either way, whether you liked it or didn't. But
No one's forcing you
but I
to
mean, it's
watch.
nice. It's nice to hear it like in person. That
Yeah,
that people really like it, or they recognize you, or um, like there's some positivity from it because we can comment all day about how the mainstream media, like CTV or CTV, like to find negative in a lot of the
yeah,
things that are going on with the O train or with transit in general. And yes, there are a lot of issues. You can't hide from that, right? Like the bus system has issues, the financial side of it, the frequencies, but beyond that, there is a lot good, right? The train is finally here. It's expanding. It definitely provides a much higher capacity, uh, better connections. Well, theoretically, we'll see how that plays out over time. But the whole concept of it is really good, and it's really about time that Ottawa has something like this with a population of over 1 million people, plus the Gatineau side, right, coming into Ottawa. So there's a lot of good and positive happening with
yeah,
this, and it's our pleasure to be able to help educate, inform people, demystify certain things with, like fact videos, frequently asked questions, like I did with line 2 and line 4. And a lot of people are actually looking at those videos, especially that one, and being uh, better informed or clarified on certain aspects. Because sometimes the media, like when we attend these media availabilities, it's always the same questions, right? It's always the
how
same
much, how
questions.
soon?
Well, not even that. Are they diesel trains? Is there going to be a problem with the overhead wire? No, they run on diesel gas. There's no wire. Oh, okay. Wow. What about the switches? Well, they're propane. Okay, well, is that Yeah, well, line 1 started with electric, then it went to propane. So now we don't have a problem with that. Well, what about the doors? Are the trains okay? Wait, come on. What can is it the same trains? How many people? Like all the stuff I put in the video, like it's kind of like a bit of a slap in the face, the video, because it's like these are the questions that are constantly getting asked that people just don't seem to have any idea of what's going on. So, it's good to be able to clarify this stuff and just give it straight up. They're very clear facts, and I think everybody should be somewhat familiar with, if especially if you're going to talk about it, what's going on and what is what, right?
Yeah. Mm. And it's well, I don't think it's worth bashing on the media's too much too
Hmm.
much more longer than that, but it's it's annoying sometimes to see that what resonates and the conscience of a lot of people is the idea that the terrain is bad, period. That there's no
Hmm.
nuance or anything like that. Like there's things that could be done better. There's things that could be improved on, but it's not a finality in itself. Like for example, obviously when the west opens, it's going to improve. I think in the having the west and the east extension to line one are going to make things much better for a lot of people, because it's going to bring the time on the bus for people coming from Barhaven or Canada way shorter, because now it's going to be a connection closer to them. And potentially stage 3 is going to bring that number even lower and that offer direct connections to the train in those communities. So
Hmm.
it's we're not in a situation that we have a network that's impossible to improve upon or develop with. It just the reality is that the the initial design of line 1 is built around the idea that it is a commuters it is a city of commuters that are going downtown. So it's an east-west line with a focus on how do we connect to downtown. Now don't forget that the TMP is so the transportation master plan is being reworked as of right now. Hopefully we get information about it in the coming months, maybe an early idea of what the actual alignments or suggestions for development are. But the reality is that travel patterns are changing, and they are most likely not going to revert back to just being about commuters. And how we go from there depends on, well, first of all, the the funding, but also how about how we we envision what we want people to be on board for. And I think an important factor we seem to forget all the time is that transit is not just for people that are commuting. Transit is not just for people that cannot afford a car. It's actually a viable and should be a viable way to go where you need to go when you not want to go. So anyway, it could be a rant by itself, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's like you said, there's always stuff that can be improved upon,
yeah,
but people will see a big difference once East and West come online,
totally, yes,
because then it's going to be like the problem. Let's say you're going from Orleans and you're going to Bayshore,
who
right?
does that?
So, well,
Yeah, but yes, let's see. Yeah, let's go with the
well, I could have
hypotheticals.
said I could have said a Hazeldean Mall, but I mean, like that
Yeah,
place
fair
still
enough.
exists. Okay, so anyways, if you have somebody going from Orleans, right? So they leave from, let's say, 10th line in Ennis, they have to take a bus down towards Place d'Orleans,
Yeah,
and generally right now the bus would continue all the way to Blair, right?
generally.
So
Hmm.
generally, or if not, then they have to switch. But let's say it's the same bus, right? So they're gonna go to Blair, then they're gonna get on the train, then they're
Yeah,
gonna ride it for about 20 some minutes to Tunney's Pasture, then they're gonna get off, get on another bus that hopefully, well, I guess at that point it probably would, well, depending on the
it would be
timing,
one
would probably
bus.
bring them
Yeah,
right to Bayshore, right? But
yeah,
let's say somebody's going all the way to Canada, so then they take a bus to Canada, probably get off at Eagleson or Terry Fox, then get on a like it starts to get a little
yeah.
ridiculous, right?
It is.
So at least with the train going all the way, it's like you're taking one bus from here to the train, one bus from here or from the train to your final destination. Like it's going to make things a lot better, right? It's not going to be, especially for the West. The West has really had it a little rough. So people coming in, they're going to be able to catch it as far as Moody, and you're going to be on the bus a lot less than being like, okay, well now it's sort of, it's not an express, but it's pretty much making its way from Moody or Canada or wherever out there all the way to Sonny's Pasture along roads that are also under heavy construction and traffic. So
Hmm.
it creates a very difficult situation, but it will definitely improve. And I think, like I said the other day, it was, geez, I can't remember what the quote was, but I spoke to a City News and I said it was a wait, but it was a wait that was worth waiting for.
Yeah.
It's a lot of weights, but but I mean, it's true though, right?
Yeah,
It,
we've
it
done our
applies
fair
to
share of
all of them.
waiting.
Like
Yeah,
there's some
but
pain, but
yeah,
once it is open, there's a big benefit that's going to be realized. And it does us no good to look, well, the last 5 years of my life were absolute hell, and I was miserable. Well, maybe, but now we can move on, right?
yeah. And line two, I think it's worth remembering that line two is the first of the stage two LRT project that we actually see completed. And from that point on, it's well, if we go by the latest updates we have on each project, we should have the east open later this year, and hopefully Q3, maybe start of Q4. So that means that we'll go from having, well, in the start, I guess, if we go back to 2019, I guess we should say two lines, but like we're gonna have a line that goes to the airport, a line that goes to Riverside South, that connects through downtown, serves South Keys and other important development areas that are getting a lot of development started like right now or even years ago that are starting to take shape and bring a lot more people along those corridors. Then we're gonna have a downtown tunnel section that is not affected by traffic, by the number of buses on it, that has capacity for the future. Well, if we choose to fund service in the future, that connects to Tunney's Pasture and is still and is being extended further west. And on the other side, all the way to Trim. So like we've reached basically like the outer eastern limit of the city. Sorry, Cumberland, I don't think we should extend all the way there, but like to Trim at this point, someone mentioned it in the chat, and I don't like the good old, oh, it's a one seat ride. One seat ride don't matter if the last mile doesn't make any sense. So like if we just try to have buses that go from one point to another, like we're wasting resources on that. So all this to say that like now we're gonna have a really good backbone to support growth in local routes, growth in communities, but also hopefully encourage the densification around those stations and those important corridors. Because if we just let it be a train line that like we can talk about Bowesville, that's basically a station with a park and ride in the middle of a field. It's don't forget that this part and also Flying Bank, for example, like it's all getting developed in the next hopefully 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and
Yeah.
like even if you look, if you haven't done so, everyone, I think it's worth the look, but look at the first train ride video Shane made back in 2019 of Line 1. Like looking through the cab at the back. And if you look at the version you did this year, like even on Line 1, you see so many more buildings. There's so much densification that's coming up. It's sure it's the same city, it's the same general landscape you recognize from before, but you see that there's things happening. And now we have a backbone in place to support those things instead of building them and hoping we had transit afterwards. That's a mistake that I think many regions have done, and we're not doing that mistake right now. So we're better off for the future. And it's easy to say, oh well, it's the long-term gain, but yes, it's a long-term gain, short-term pain right now kind of
Yeah.
situation. So yeah. Anyway.
Like especially there for Bowesville and for Limebank, there's
Hmm.
a lot of potential around there. And yes, it is coming early, and it does feel like it's a train that's going to nowhere. But when you ride it from South Keys down towards Limebank, it's also kind of relaxing. I mean,
It is.
I'm
It's a
getting a lot
very
of fun out of
enjoyable
that.
stretch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like about a 15-16 minute ride, and it's going about, for the most part, 80 kilometers per hour, and
Hmm.
it's smooth and it's quiet. But at the same time, there are bus stations there, there's park and ride, and there's people that are making use of these stations.
Oh yeah.
It's just that, I think I said it a while ago, the stations are coming before the development around them, but this will definitely encourage those developers to build sooner rather than later because infrastructure
Yes.
is there. And there is a big interest in having, like, would you want to live at a spot where you have to take a long bus ride to get somewhere or walk very far to get to transit? or have to drive? Or would you like to have an option where the transit is located, 5-10 minute walk away, like line two, that brings you right downtown in 30 minutes. Like you can
Yeah.
just walk out, maybe walk a couple minutes, 10 minutes, and you just get on that train and away you go. And you're like, okay, there's not going to be any traffic. It's always going to be consistent within a minute or two. And it's and that's what people want. That's what people want.
Mm.
But I mean, you have to market it properly, right? Because if you look at like if we go back to the Orleans example, um, you know the one I'm talking about?
Are you?
If you go east of Tent Line towards Trim, you see the Bridgel developments, right? Like off of
Oh yeah, yeah,
Gendap
Bridget.
on the right there, and it says,
Yeah.
"Oh, the big sign, oh LRT, it's
5 minutes
coming."
away from the
Walk
LRT.
5. It's not 5 minutes. Like, don't give BS like that. That's not true. That's a complete mislead, right?
I
If
feel
there
like
was a
every
station
rail
at
chat that
Tent
one comes
Line,
up.
I know. I bring it up every time, right?
Yes.
But it's a piss off, right? Because
Yeah. No. No.
every
I
time
get
you
it.
see that, it's not 5 minutes, it's not 10 minutes, it's not 20 minutes, it's probably 30 minutes.
Mm.
Like I wouldn't I would be furious if I got a place like that. I mean, and I've seen them, I actually looked at them a long time ago. They're actually quite nice. But to say the train is right there, you would have to take a bus. Nobody's going to walk 30 minutes each way
Cross the
to get to that
174.
yeah, across the 174 and loop back. But I mean, it's completely absurd. It's completely absurd. That's not transit-oriented development. Is it in proximity? Could there maybe be a station infill around there one day? Yes, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about spots like even around Blair, it's building up. Bowesville, Limebank, they're building up. Trim on the opposite side, like Petrie's Landing and
Yeah.
some other developments right in
I think
proximity
it's
there,
phase 3
that
there. Yeah.
counts. I think like
Serville.
yeah, they're
Serville,
building a lot like
Tremblay.
just down
Well,
the road. Yeah,
yeah.
well, Tremblay, I think, but
Yeah, it's getting some.
there's a lot.
Yeah. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Well, Bayview maybe someday.
That would be cool.
900 Albert. 900 Albert. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they're supposed to have an observatory level at the top, right? So it'll be kind of like Place d'une Marie when you used to be able to go to the roof
Yeah.
and look out.
Oh
That
my
would be
god.
cool.
Yeah, right. I forgot that used to be a thing. Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
been
you
a
know what
while.
else used to be a thing was in Gatineau, Place des Peuples.
No. Okay.
And I
If you
remember
say
I
so.
went to the marketing shack for that once, like just across the museum. I think they got a gelato place in there now.
Hmm.
And yeah, we're going to be building in 2 years, and you're going to want to sign right away. I think we were actually pretty close to being like, okay, we're actually going to take the plunge, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have missed out at this point, but it didn't pan out, right?
Hmm.
But these kind of buildings, I find it really interesting. When you look at or not Corso Italia, Dow's Lake, you have the Claridge icon, and you have a lot of
Yep.
others going around there. The hospital that's going up. Um, where else?
So
I think
Italia
around
also
South
open.
Keys or Greenboro, I think there's something maybe,
Walkley's
right?
getting more
Or Walkley,
potentially.
Walkley. Yeah.
Yeah. Walkley's getting more in the near-ish future.
Mhm.
South Keys, well, there's the South Keys redevelopment plans that are a thing. Will they happen? How soon will they happen? That's a big question. Uplands is supposed to get some. I think it's mostly industrial, but like it's still gonna generate trips. Um, I'm trying to remember because if you look at Uplands, well, actually, you know what? Let's use the Railfans
Oh yeah,
Canada map.
activate the rail. Yeah, there we go. Fire it up.
Woohoo!
Map.railfans.ca, ladies and gentlemen. It's a
Yes.
GitHub repository created by Derek Ellis. Derek Ellis, thank you very much.
So this is where Uplands is. On the right, you have the most a thing.
Popular, the
Yeah.
most popular event space in Ottawa, the home of the Ottawa Comic Con, and also, and one of my pride and
Clearance
joys,
sales.
the Ottawa Ski Show, operated by Quinstad Sports.
Oh, they don't do it at well, I guess what they now call the Rogers Center, Ottawa.
Where's
I was
that?
sure it was there. The Shaw Center. Now it's called the Rogers Center, Ottawa, to go along with the Rogers Center in Toronto, the Rogers Place in Calgary. I think I'm mixing them. Anyway, like it's yeah, they renamed it. But this plot of land right there on the north side of Upland Station. There's first of all, there's a path open already. Well, it's fenced off right now, but one person could technically, once it's actually built on the other side, connect between the two sides of the station and go the other way. But also, like, it's a huge plot of land, and it's not lined with the runways, which has potential for building something that's a bit taller than, for example, say at Leitrim or Bowesville, because of the approach lines for the runways. But realistically, like, we have a lot of potential along the two lines, or even along the more developed parts of it. Mooney's Bay potentially, if Canada Post is staying there, obviously, but some of the federal lands around there could potentially be also redeveloped into something else. So, yeah, it's
and just talking about the runway, Bowesville, you get it's like right in the glide path of the runway,
yes,
so you see a lot of planes like coming right over, and it's actually really neat.
it is. Yeah,
Like they're actually coming, they're actually fairly low at that point. So I mean, to just sit there, you can do some really good plane spotting. Or if you want to see, you know, we've talked. I'm gonna stop saying we've talked about this before. We've talked about everything before, right? But you know, at the airport, they moved the security screening checkpoint to the third floor,
yeah,
where
because
the
of
restaurant, I think
of
it
the
was like
US. Yeah,
A Nichols or Rito restaurant or something, and there was like an observation area like by the
yeah,
glass at the end, so you can't see out from the terminal to actually see the runway clearly anymore. And the airport station, wow, I mean, you're still on the opposite side of the building, but you still
you have
see
good
some
views.
plane movements, and you see like the US gates with the planes like off to the side there. So it's
Yeah,
actually even more interesting than, well, okay, maybe it's not more interesting than where you could actually see the runway unimpeded, but it's the best thing we got now in the current reality. Unless the Alt Hotel has some restaurant at the top where you can see right
no,
over. No,
it
probably
won't.
not. Okay,
No.
wishful thinking. All right. There,
But
that's gone.
I'm gonna say that, like, I think it could be a whole other video. Like, we talked about it in the past, doing a video about train spotting in Ottawa, like where you can go to get some good shots. Obviously, there's a few of the locations we would have talked in the past that turns out are either fenced off completely or just not accessible, not meant to
Mhm.
be accessible. So it's a bit, we don't want to create a video that we tell people to trespass. That's a big part of the problem. So it might, I'm working on how it could be approached differently, but the whole point I'm trying to say here is that we're quite lucky with how line 2 is set up, and line 4s and the airport and everything else, that we have a lot of really good opportunities for photos and videos of either the trains, planes, or just the general built environment in which they are. So the Bowesville, for example, like you mentioned, if you're on the platform and they're using the main runway landing from the south, you have an amazing view of the planes coming in, even during the night. Like well, I have the chunkers, as I like to call it. But like even this, says the guy. Well, yeah, okay, maybe I'm going off topic there, but all I'm trying to say is, like, it, even with standard lens or even your phone, like at 2x 3x probably on most phones, you're gonna have a really good, angle, and you're not gonna be right under the plane. You're just gonna be slightly upset that you're able to actually get a profile of it as it approaches, and they're not going too quickly at this point. Obviously, if they're taking off, it's a different story, but there's options. And for people that have an eye for photography or video, it's really nice to have those options. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what else? What else was I? Should I talk about the South Keys shelter? Why not, right?
I think
So
let's talk about one more positive thing
okay,
we
okay.
haven't talked about. We talked about
Well,
it during the
there's a lot of
stream.
positive though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. The flirts. My
Mm.
God, are they great? Ah,
Oh yeah.
it. So, like, I know it sounds really random when I say it like that, but if there's something that the feedback has been really positive, that we've heard from other people on the trains, but also like just people commuting to work that have no idea who we are, like just they're just sitting talking with someone else. It's how smooth riding they are, how comfortable they are, and like it is. The train that makes the Cita de Spirit look bad the most, I think, is the flirt, and that's like, I know, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole of talking about, oh well, if we had an high floor rail line instead of a low floor. No, I'm not going there. But those trains, they're comfortable. Like it makes the commute feel so smooth, so relaxing for most people. And they're, even though they're diesel, they're quiet. Like if there's just a bunch of, like, even if there's just a few people on board, they're so quiet that it's actually a really pleasant commute. You don't feel like you're just hearing the wheels screech or the engine rumble, or like I don't know, like the resonance from being in the tunnel. That helps too. And I want to give a huge shout out to those screens on board. I'm like, there's things about the layout we could argue about, but having screens that are seeable from both directions on anywhere in the train, there's no situation where you're not able to tell where you're going, unless they're frozen. But that's fixable. That's software. Like the location of the screens is way better than anything we've had before in Ottawa, and like that's I the deepest part of my heart feels like there's a way to make them work online on the Spirits. I don't think it's practical. I don't think it makes sense on the low floor terrain because obviously the ceiling's lower. But hey, if there's a way, if there's a will, there's a way.
And what's nice with those screens too is it shows like the time to the next station and the time
Yes.
to the terminus. I find that really, really helpful. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're riding the train and you're going from point A to point B, I mean, it takes however long it takes, but it does give you some feedback as you go without having
Yeah.
to open up your phone and look at an app and say, well, I'm here and another maybe 5 or 10. No, it's going to be 12 minutes or 6 minutes. And like,
Yeah.
it's nice to see
And
that
it updates in
information.
real
It's
time.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's simple, but it's very, uh, it's like being on the plane, right? You sort of see like, when you're on the plane that has the map that's moving
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
shows,
I know
your
the map.
distance, your speed and all that, and how much time is left. It's the same idea as that, right?
Yeah.
Where you have like some feedback as to how it's going. The trains are quiet, like David said, very low vibration. They don't sway like the other two
No.
trains do. I was told they have like an active suspension, and so it's able to really compensate. Good for the sway. And the noise is really isolated to just the power pack, the diesel power pack in the middle. When you open like those glass doors, you hear the
Yeah.
sound. When you
Totally.
pass, and even when the doors are open, you have to almost pass through the door threshold to really, like, then the sound really builds up.
Yeah.
But even without going through there and the doors are open, it's not excessive. And then as you get farther away from the doors, you hear very little. It's
Yeah.
impressive how it's really isolated to just that area. And even when you're in there and they're running at full bore, I guess, if the train's going at 80
Yeah.
and you hear like the rumble, it's not excessive either. Like you can actually talk in there.
Oh yeah. Like you shouldn't stay there.
No, keep
It's not a
moving.
big space. Obviously, it's not meant for people to stand there. But
Keep moving.
yeah. But like it's not. I worried at first, like when they said, "Oh, you're gonna be able to walk through there." I'm like, it's gonna be loud, but it's not excessively loud. I should say. Like I didn't get a reading on my watch. Like that's maybe something I should try to go do. Like get a noise reading and like compare with other things we have in Ottawa, because I'm pretty sure the loudest line right now on the old network is line 1. Ironic, given there's no diesel on this line, but like line 4, line 2, line 4 might be a bit louder than line 1 now that I think about it, just because the positioning of the engines and like the different configuration than the flirts. But like all this to say that they're a really pleasant experience, and like 30 minutes on board of them doesn't feel painful in any way whatsoever. Like it's a
No.
comfortable experience, and I really hope that people that were taking the train before before the pandemic, before the line to close for construction, are at the very least going to give it an actual chance. Like, get get a day pass, just take the train, try it, see if like I think the best sales pitch for line 2 right now is actually riding line 2, because it's a really pleasant experience, it's comfortable, it gets you where you need to go, and like there's always going to be the need to have, like, there's always going to be arguments about, well, it doesn't get me to downtown in one seat. So what? If the biggest problem we have with a line is that it's not a one seat ride, in my mind, it's a great line.
Well, look, does if you're in Toronto, like if we want to compare line 2 in Ottawa to Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Because in Toronto you can take line 2 and you can go straight downtown, right? And we can't. Oh no,
No,
wait, we
because you have
can't.
to
We can't,
transfer on the
right?
loop.
Because you have to switch. So,
Well, the loop, the U. I like
right?
that. Yeah, no, if you
You have
wanted
to switch to line 1, the university line, or
Yeah.
whatever they want to call it at this point. But all that to say, if you need to get down to, let's say, King or Queen or any of that area around there, like close to Union, King or Queen,
Mm.
um,
You have to transfer
how
anyway.
long does that take? How many stations is that? That takes some time to do, right? We're talking here in Ottawa, from Bayview to Lyon or Parliament, you're talking like 3 stops, which is going to be quicker than this.
Mm.
So,
Because, like, I've
uh,
done earlier this week, I've done Dow's Lake to Ottawa, 3 times, I think, or 2 times maybe, plus the actual. Yeah, this two. Yeah, Azero's right. You can take this line for direct train line to Union, but I think like, if we add Go in the mix, like, I know there's the one fare program, it makes it a bit more difficult to, like, not recognize that. It just, don't forget that we're talking about a line that runs every 12 minutes. Like, it's something we need to remember. But, like, I've done Dow's Lake to Ottawa, and I think it's 22 minutes, including the transfer. 22 or 24 minutes, which is technically slower than if you take the bus. So, like, it would be I think the 88. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's technically slower than the bus, and like that. Like, while it's slower, I think it's still a way better experience. It's more reliable. You're
mhm.
not stuck in traffic. You're not depending on the bus being on time. That's a whole other debate. But, like, it's 85. Thank you, I'm on you. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of, this map really makes obvious that, a line that goes here, like along Carling, or maybe something that goes along Baseline, and
Mhm.
or something that goes along the Via Corridor. You know.
Like, see, something along baseline might actually be really useful because when I went to Algonquin back in like 2002, jeez, uh, actually, we were talking about it the other day at home here with my wife, and I'm like, how old am I again? Am I 40, 41? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, God, even worse. So, anyways, oh, you start getting to the point you just don't even know what age you are anymore.
Yeah.
Like you do, this is the birthday, this is the current year, I was born in that month, and okay, anyways, but it's getting harder as you get older, apparently. So, or at least for me. Um, so anyways, I digress.
Yes,
What
you
was I
do.
saying? Oh yeah, so anyways, when I went to Algonquin back in
Mm.
2002, and I lived in Orleans, like near Innis and Tent Line. Um, okay, so for example, in the morning, right, I
Mm.
could take uh the 27 at the time went like pretty much like right on the street, right?
Yeah.
But if I walked about 2, 3 blocks or about 10 minutes, because they were kind of long blocks, I could take the 35, right, on Orchard View,
Mm.
and then that one would go downtown, but it would continue all the way to Lincoln Fields, right? Nobody was on the bus after Le Breton, but whatever. So I used to say I'm bus surfing, right? So I'd take it to Lincoln Fields, then I would switch because at that point I had but no choice to switch
Mm.
to a 95, and I would
And you
then
get all the
go
way. Yeah.
Queensway, which it would not stop, Iris, and then baseline, right?
Mm.
And I could do that in about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, about pretty consistently, right? If there was a snowstorm, it could
Good
be
luck.
horrible, right? But
Yeah.
then on the way back at night, there was no option to do anything like that, right? I would have to go downtown and I would have to stand on Slater. And if the weather was pouring rain and the buses were lined up and you didn't see it, you'd be heading for a bruising, right? Because
Yeah.
you'd get a cold and you'd be sick. And that happened a few times, and I felt like crap the very next day, honest to God. Because you get soaked and then you're standing on a bus that's steamy hot.
Mm.
It's not a pleasant experience. So just the downtown tunnel, one, major difference because at least you're in shelter. Two, you don't have to worry about what bus is coming by. Do I see it? Should I take this one? I haven't seen the 27 in a while. There's a 35 there. Maybe the 27 is going to be a minute later. It'll bring me closer. Or should I take? And then it's gone. Okay, well now like it was completely absurd. Like there was too much going on, and I don't know how anybody can ever contest that it was better the way it was. There's no competition. It's better now. I mean, maybe they should have done a tunnel long ago downtown. I think the tunnel aspect on its own is the thing that made the biggest difference, but it's a way better experience now. But all that to say, so let's say 45 minutes to 50 minutes from Innis and 10th-ish in Orleans all the way to baseline in the morning, right?
Mm.
To come back, if I were to take the bus, I would let's say well I had to take the 95 to downtown and then I would take another bus, right?
Yeah.
I remember a few times where there'd be a snowstorm and it would take about I think it took at least once it took about an hour and a half to get from Minto Place. So I guess Kent or Lyon or whatever
Yeah.
and
Around there.
Slater all the way to Mackenzie King. Like an hour and a half. Are you nuts?
Mm.
That is completely absurd. Like the bus is not moving. And then you remember you used to see articles in the news, people opening the emergency escape windows, climbing out of the bus. I can't stop. We're not at a stop, so I can't open the doors. Well, take matters in your own hands. You get out and you walk. Like that's how bad it could get, right?
Mm.
So there's a few times where that was so bad. And even when it wasn't bad, the weather, I would actually take, and I think it was at the time, the 118 from Baseline to Herdman. And it went down baseline. I think it went down Heron, and it made its way to Herdman at that point, right? And then I would take a bus from Herdman,
Mm.
and it went a lot better.
Yeah.
Honestly, the times like I really didn't like that trip because there was a lot of stop and go. But ironically, it would go faster than taking the transit way and doing the more conventional way to get to that point in the trip, right? So I went off like on a complete tangent here. You heard the whole life story. Yes, I went to Algonquin. I don't know how old I am, and I'm getting older. And I lived in Orleans. So there you go. You have the life story. But the point remains that maybe Bank might, or Bank. No. Okay, sorry. I take that back. Not Bank. Baseline would be a good option
It all started
because there's
because
a
of
lot
that.
of traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all started with that story.
It got me going there because I remembered some pretty horrific times on the transit there.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to
That went really long. Sorry, everyone. I apologize.
all right, let's get back on track.
Okay. So should I talk about South Keys now?
Yeah, let's talk about South Keys. You know.
Okay. So I'll try to make this quicker than the baseline thing. So all the new stations have shelters.
Yeah.
And each one, so for people that don't know or haven't made the connection yet, probably have, the Transsecure shelter, the one with like the yellow ribbon around it that says Transsecure, is the one that has the heat in it. Okay?
Mm.
They work really good, except at South Keys, where it is not sealed at the floor and it's not sealed at the roof. Now, I think, as we all know, heat rises, so if it comes out at the roof line there, I suppose that's not a big deal. But the draft that you get at the bottom, Hurlstone is going to make a reservation for me at the Rockcliffe Retirement Home on the island in the Rideau River. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Send me a message after. We can talk about that, okay? You know how to reach me.
Oh boy.
I got yeah. Well, I got
Now I
some
lost
light
this
coming
train
out
of
here,
thought.
so
Thank you.
yeah. Thanks a lot. So no, but anyways, there's no ceiling between the glass and the floor at South Keys shelter that's heated.
Mm.
So when I was there, let's say on, well, pretty much every day I was there, it definitely feels noticeably colder than
Any of
any
the
of the
other
other
shelter. Yeah.
shelters or any other option really. And I tried, right? I went to the lower level where the gates are. It's actually quite cold down there.
Mm.
It's kind of weird that it's that cold, but it is. The elevators are cold. Like that shelter is still warmer, but it could be a lot warmer if they were to put like rubber or some sort of uh, material of
Interface, I guess.
whatever,
Yeah.
yeah, to seal that gap at the bottom because it's a little disappointing. And I think if you actually look, I could be wrong, the way that the glass comes together, there's no seam between them either. So there's actually gaps in the glass
Yeah.
where the angles meet. So there's a lot more that can be done there, I think.
Mm.
Because and the point too, of course, that there's nothing they can do about now. It's not in line with the line four boarding zone, which is a little weird.
But
Like it's farther down.
don't forget the old plan for line 4 boarding. You know, the one that involves switches.
I know, but that wouldn't have changed the.
No, they
I
would
don't
have
think that would
boarded
have
towards
changed
the
it.
back of the platform.
Oh, it was going to be at the back.
I think so.
Oh, okay.
I actually, I'm speaking out of terms right now. I have no official thing that I can say yes without a doubt, but
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure the plan would have been to use the later end of the platform, go onto the tail track, I
Pocket
guess we
track.
should call it, and then when they pull back
Yeah.
out, use that same spot. Like they could probably have used this or the front end of the platform, but there's nothing that would say specifically that to be that side of the platform that they chose, and
Hmm.
I think it's good because well, I guess it's closer for people that would get on the train from either a bus, like transfer, say from a bus at South Keys or entering the station at South Keys, but it makes it a bit weirder for anyone that's coming from actually the train, like, and so like get off the train, go in the Transsecure shelter, like get some warmth in the winter, then come out and still have to go across the entire platform to go board the train. So I don't think there's nothing that would have stopped them to use the other half of the platform.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So there's that, and well, I mean, I'm sure if a lot of people did comment, even when I've been there, that it wasn't very warm. And
Yeah.
again, it's warmer than line one because line one does have heaters, but there's no shelter. There's just like a couple glass curtain walls, let's say,
On the
that sort
sides,
of
like it's not
border.
sealed.
Yeah.
The air
But I
just,
mean,
yeah.
it does nothing. You really don't feel the heat on that.
Mm.
And some of the heaters don't even seem to work on line one. Or if they do, it takes an inordinate amount of time for it to heat up before it turns off and you're gone. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Hopefully, if anybody from OC or Transit Next is watching this or watches this after, hopefully that's something that can be looked into
Mm.
because it would make the experience a lot better,
Oh,
especially in the cold that we had this week. Like Wednesday there, it was really cold.
yeah. Also, just a nitpick, and like I'm definitely not talking from experience, but uh, the button for the emergency phones,
Yeah, it's too close to the
too
heat.
close and not different enough. Like I was looking at photos I have of how they're set up in Toronto, for example, and they have a very obvious phone icon on them or something that makes it clear that this is a different button because. Well, for those that didn't figure it out yet, I pressed the wrong button at the airport station because I was like, yeah, I'm actually curious to see like, is it gonna be warm? Because well, actually, it's convenient. We have the right photo for that. But if you look at airport station, obviously you have the section that's enclosed inside the terminal. That this one is like it's fully sealed. It's connected with the HVAC of the airport. But you also have a Transsecure shelter on the platform itself, and it has the warmers, but it's fully open towards the top. So I was,
Yeah, it's like line one.
yeah, exactly. So I wanted to see like, is it actually warmer or not? and I pressed the wrong button, and then I heard the phone ringing. Patrick's standing right next to me. It's like, anyway, it's one of those things that I know the background panel is yellow, but at the same time, like if you're entering the shelter, you're looking for the heat, like you're, I don't want to say freezing, but like you want to be more comfortable. You look for the panel, you see the big yellow panel, you think it's a button, but actually it's the gray on gray button just a bit below from there. So like maybe it needs to have something that, I don't want to say brings more contrast to the button, but makes it really clear that it's not either button. Or anyway, it's just a nitpick. Like I think it's not the end of the world. It's more me being myself being myself, not actually like in a rush wanting to get some heat and figure that it's not, I'm not clicking the right thing. So I'd be really curious to know statistically how many calls they get by mistake.
Well, I mean, in the line two situation there, it seems like they're not even 12 inches apart
Yeah, like
in a lot of cases.
yeah,
So,
if I had looked like a few inches below where I clicked, that's where it was, which is, it's a placement. Like the placement, I don't think is a problem. It's more the differentiation between the two buttons, because you have one button that's very, like, you have the yellow panel around it, so it's clear there's a button right there, and then you have the other one just below that's a bit whoops, I clicked the wrong one, then you click the other one, and you're like, well, now I'm gonna get some heat, and I'm heated from the fact I pressed the wrong button and wasted someone's time on the other end of the line. So yeah. Anyway,
but I mean, I think the big upgrade here is that they have heat, like
yes.
an actual enclosed shelter, which is on par with what we had at the transitway stations in the past, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big step up. It's too bad that line one didn't have that. But again, if line one was operating at 5 minutes, then
The
the impact
conversation
would be
would
a
be
lot
different.
less.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully line or South Keys heated shelter can be improved upon, because it's really like it's really cold. Like the way that station's set up, the wind really goes through
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
because it's elevated from everything else. So there's really no shelter from both sides. And to have like a gap, like about like that much at the bottom, and in the glass panes, like at the corners, like on Wednesday there, like I was riding it a lot Wednesday, and I was taking my gloves off like in the shelters, and
Yeah.
even in shelters where there wasn't heat, and that shelter I was not taking, like I was actually, should I go to the elevator? Like, is there somewhere else here that would be warmer? Like it really was pretty borderline there.
It's interesting that South Keys is really the only station we have that comment
Yeah.
to do about, because Walkley is somewhat in the trench, but still exposed to the elements. Mooney's Bay too.
Hmm.
Bowesville, as proper like the shelters are actually comfortable to wait in, even though
Yeah.
it's in the middle of the field. Lime Bank, you also have the same kind of setup. So it's really South Keys the only one that has that very
Hmm.
particular setup that seems to be problematic, I would say, like because Corso Italia, for example, like it's like we might want to talk about our favorite stations on the line at some point, maybe a good way to close on the stream at some point. But like Corso Italia, because it's in a trench, but also as more of more buildings around it per se, like
Hmm.
around the trench, and you have also the whole element that it's a bit sunken compared to the rest. It really seems to block most of the wind. Like
Yeah.
even waiting on the platform doesn't feel too cold. Like when I think, was it Thursday? I'm trying to recall. Thursday night around 10 p.m. or something like that. Like I rode the entire line from like, and stopped at most stations because I didn't have the time on Monday with work to actually do that. And it's really, South Keys is the one that really came up to my mind as like being the coldest. Like all the other ones, there's at least an option. So anyway,
Yeah.
just food for
And
thoughts.
and I think well, I mean, I guess we can move on from the eaters there, but just the South Keys thing. What I found really interesting when I was walking around
Mm,
on Monday, because I went to all the stations and I took photos. So I mean, okay, so I'll just explain that quickly. So on our site, on the O Train website for for rail fans, we have the pages for all the stations. And I'm going to be updating all of the photos and the text for the Line 2 and the Line 4 stations because right now they're just placeholders, with like the one or two
yeah,
renders that the city had provided. But those are going to be updated with photos that I took on Monday for all those stations. But they're just going to be temporary photos. So in the summer, when everything's nice and the landscaping's done, it's going to be summer photos like all the other ones,
yeah,
right? But that should be up in the next week or two. Well, within the next 2 weeks, if not less.
yeah.
Let's just say. Because see, yeah, those are renders, and then we got snapshots at the bottom of the construction. Um, so what was I going to say? So what I noticed when I was doing that at Corso Italia, I don't know if you had noticed. I'm not sure if anybody really noticed this at first, or maybe I just wasn't looking well.
Okay.
But when you walk into Corso Italia, right, there's like
Gates on both sides.
there's gates on both sides, and then you see like the glass at the
Yeah,
back, right?
and there's a
But you can
crossover.
pass behind the glass. So I didn't know there was that at the time, right? So
Mm,
then I walked in, I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of neat.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's kind of neat. I like that.
And
Um,
yeah, no, I was gonna say like I would be really curious to know why they didn't just do one line of fare gates instead. Like
yeah.
say you
Well, I mean, maybe they wanted to have the plaza area outside, so then it would have encroached into that. Maybe I don't know,
no, but
or they could have
like
backed the
what
station
I'm
off.
thinking about is like keep the same walls as they are, but like instead of having the gates on both sides, like half, like say half a wall, a bit like your Ottawa station actually in the lower concourse. So like you have the wall, like the station walls, and then the gates, and then you just go the
Mhm.
direction you want to. Like I I guess there's a reason for it. I guess from a flow perspective or something like that that I'm not really catching right now on the top of my head. But like Corso is, I think, one of the really great layouts we have for station.
Mhm.
And Walkley maybe down the road, if it gets double tracked at that point to enable higher frequency, should in my mind should become basically a duplicate of Corso Italia
Mhm.
because the layout is really great and it's
I,
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, what's neat with Corso Italia too, it has like that feel of some Line 1 stations.
Yeah.
So like Tremblay and Lees, for example,
Mm.
and probably a few others like
Without
going
the
out west there. So
sculpted roof, but yes.
like uh Pinecrest would be another one once
Mm.
that's done. But you know where you walk in when you walk in and it's like it's really uh like really big inside and you have like this I don't know. It's better with pictures, right? But you know what I mean? Like there's like a lower level that's really enclosed
Yeah.
underneath when you come out from the elevators. Like it has that big feel and like the swooping stairwells and all that. So it's very it's the one that's the most reminiscent of like the big stations of Line 1.
Mm. Yeah.
But these stations just go to show if you have good shelters like we have now, we didn't before. I mean, bus shelters weren't really good shelters for the climate that we have out there. But good shelters and heated ones, you don't need
It goes a long way.
big stations with big overhead canopies, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of people say, well, there's no overhead canopy, so I'm going to get wet when I come out of the shelter and go onto the train. Well, how did you get to the station without getting wet? Like,
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
unless you were standing there long enough and miraculously you dried off before you went back out to get onto the train. But, it seems like a bit of a moot point at that point.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's easy to point fingers at things that don't work properly because they're the things you might notice. But like the fact that the bigger issues we're talking about right now is the eating at one specific station, and like maybe like Harmonia mentions it in the chat, like the connection between the Walkley station and the transit
Ugh.
way is I mean if I wouldn't call it connection personally, like given how like it's a bit rough to be polite. um but like the fact that we're nitpicking on things like that, and that the rest of the things we say is like really positive, I think shows how appreciate, first of all, like how much line 2 is important in Ottawa, but also like that it's still a net improvement compared to line 2 before it closed.
Mm-hmm.
It took 5 years, yes, but we're still better off, I think. Like, we have capacity, trains with higher capacity that are more comfortable, in my opinion. We have more segments of track to 12-minute frequency. Obviously, we don't have more frequent trains, but we have more capacity right now. And we haven't, for the most part, precluded ourselves from double tracking the line and adding more capacity down the road. Is there money? Is there a will? That's always a question. But there's nothing in this specific design that makes it that it's a dead end. It's the line we have, and we're stuck with it for the next 70 years. If there's a will, there's a way. So.
Well, I think that the next logical step at this point would be to double track.
Yes.
But even then, do we really need... Like, we'd have to look at the map closely, but I think the most important segment would probably be to double track it from South Keys to Bayview, because then the airport train could come through easily.
Yeah.
And that's the most core section. And then the part south of South Keys, that there's quite a lot of passing tracks down there.
South of South Keys, the moment you reach Leitrim is double tracked. All the way to Lambic.
So I mean, it's yeah. So I mean, like, I'm not even sure you would really need to double track at that point down there, because it has enough double tracking going on. I think. Well, I mean, the logical step would be you would do it at some point, right? But I mean, there's not much missing down there. So I mean, it's really just South Keys to Bayview.
Yeah. And even from South Keys to Bayview, like the tunnel, for example, there's no immediate need to double track it like, for those that maybe haven't been on the line yet or not familiar with what parts are single tracked or not, from Corso Italia to Dow's Lake. This is in the trench. The trench would need to be widened. It's not impossible, to be clear. There's nothing that says it's physically impossible to do it. It's money. So if you bring it to Dow's Lake and have 2 platforms at Dow's Lake, which will need to become a thing at some point with the hospital, with the additional developments that are supposed to be happening over there, this probably is one of the key places to double track first, in my mind. Then afterwards, you're right, from South Keys, so Greenboro, Walkley, that gets us to the flyover. Double track up to there probably would enable us to see higher frequency on the service. Mooney's Bay doesn't really need to, because Carleton, you would have potentially a double track Walkley, so Mooney's Bay would be the station in between with only 1 track, and then Carleton is double track, and then the tunnel, and then you get to Dow's Lake and you have double track all the way there. So I think, to repeat myself for the 20th time at this point, it's a question of money. It's a question of will and money.
And like was being said there, you don't need to double track the Rideau River bridge or the Dow's Lake tunnel, because especially if you only have those 2 sections or around those 2 sections as single track, you can still increase your frequency. And you have passing opportunities like right before and right after, and those little stints on the track there are 30-40 seconds. So that's not going to make or break you to even bring it to 5 minutes.
No, you're right.
If ever that needed to happen. So, but I guess what we can say is, really, if these are our little nitpicks, heating at South Keys. Is there anything else? I think that's really the heating at South Keys.
The other issues, I think, are question of opportunity. Like, do we choose to go in that direction in the future? Like, they're not problems with the line because it's still functional. Like, I know there's always going to be people that say 12 minutes is not frequent enough. Well, I mean, before, what was it? In 2019, was it 10 minutes or
No, it was 12.
It was 12 too. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, it was. No, it went down when they did the expansion in 2015. It went from 15 to 12.
Right. Okay.
It was supposed to go to something like 8 or 10
I
or
think
whatever, but I
18.
mean that
That's
didn't
yeah.
work out.
Yeah, that's probably the number I had in my mind. But like 12 minutes is not the end of the world because the stations are built in a way that it's not too bad to wait there.
Mm.
I In a perfect world, I would love to see a 5-minute frequency on that line. Does it make sense ridership wise? Does it make sense financially? Probably not. But it's really important that from now on, when we build upon the corridor, like develop things around it, we need to make sure that we're not precluding those expansion to happen in the future, because there's so much development coming along that corridor that it's been a recurring chat in the Discord. Like, there's a shout out to Cobalt. I think he has his bet is that by 2035 or probably even before that, basically the line will be at exceeding capacity with the developments that are currently being planned. And that's the important thing. Currently planned and known about. Because if you look at all the things that will likely happen in the next 10 years, like we'll need a way to increase capacity on there. Because for line 1, the solution is easy. We just get more trains on the line and we schedule them closer together. On line 2, we actually need to do physical changes to get there. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I think where's that picture of somebody shared the picture from the Lime Bank. I'm gonna try and find it there. But there's a planning diagram, I guess, of the area around Lime Bank.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking
You know
about.
what I'm talking about? And it shows like the amount of the maximum number of floors for the different areas that are being proposed around the station, and it goes up to 25 floors.
Yeah.
And can you imagine? Like, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not nitpicking in that way, but if you're looking at that and you like right now you ride the train and you have houses in the distance, but let's just say grass, okay, on both sides.
Yeah.
And then let's say maybe in 10, 15 years,
I got it.
You're coming in and it has like that, Vancouver SkyTrain kind of feel, like I can't think of the station there, but the station what is it? I don't remember.
Yeah.
New something. I can't remember.
But
yeah, like you see like all that
yeah,
all that area right in the middle there.
Yeah.
I mean, how exciting, and I don't know if that's inspiring, but like it's gonna like there's grass right now, and I have like 25-story building, like and you're just coming through with the train. Like it's gonna look like the amount of transformation that's gonna happen around there that we will see easily from the train as it's happening.
Yep.
And building. I mean, it's gonna look. I don't know. It's super exciting. Like I just look at this picture, and it's just like a rough picture, right, with numbers, but the potential, if it follows through like this, is massive.
Yeah, 30
like
stories.
It's exciting. Like I'm excited just thinking about it. Like I was thinking about it the other day, riding in the train, and it starts like at 6 stories,
18,
8, 12, 18, 25. Like right when you get to the station, like wow, like it's gonna really be impressive.
Yeah,
and they're gonna have transit from this location from day one because it's already there.
Yep.
It's not like, well, you're gonna move in and a couple me, in 2 years, maybe 3.
Chapel Hill.
The minute you can get your keys and you're in there, you have transit right downtown.
Yeah.
You're not waiting. It's there. It's proven. Like this is, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, it's early. There's nothing there. What a waste. Well, waste would be building around here and having nothing show up as far as transit for years and years after that, if ever. Or they screw it so bad that there's no corridor to even get the transit in there like this.
There you go. Yeah.
And then it's a tunnel, and then you just never do it at that point. So this is great. I love it.
Yeah. And one more thing to add also is, I don't know how well they're going to be able to see it on the screen.
Yeah, still see it.
Yeah. But those 3 right there, those are potential stations. Like, obviously, there's no funding. There's no actual plan for that right now. But people like I had people mention. I know some people mentioned that this stretch of track is too slow for how far apart the two stations are, and you know, I'm gonna say it. They're right. It's too slow, but
Mm.
it's not too slow when like you need to consider the fact that you have um, the Mosquito Creek that's cutting across, so that means they have to set up the track in a certain configuration so they're able to cross it in the most efficient way. But also, you have well, there's a photo I shared on the Discord. I'm just gonna try to find it real quick. But if you look at the landscaping around there, like it's really elevated. It's up and down. Like it's not just
It's
flat.
got a lot
you
of
know?
interesting profile to it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just typing in Discord at the same time. So, from jeez. Anyway, yeah, if you have something to say at the same time, go for it because I'm.
Okay, well, I don't, you know,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
got myself all worked up there with the numbers. So, oh, it's 30?
Yeah, it's
I
30.
thought it was
No,
25.
it's 30.
Okay, well, even better, even
Yeah.
better.
Unless they
I
amended
like
it
that.
since then, like I'm pretty sure it's 30. Yeah.
Okay, well, the one I was looking at the other day was 25. Okay, so even this is looking good.
Yeah.
I like it.
And
I don't know what else to say. I mean, obviously, this is still years out, and I'm not really the most patient person, but it gets me excited for the future as to what's to come.
yeah, and that's like to reuse the same sentence I've been saying all along is there's potential.
Mhm.
It's potential, and there you go, I got it.
Well, I mean, it's not even potential, and it's not even a pipe dream. It's something's going to happen here, and it's going to be big.
Like this is Bowsville. This is Lime Bank. You see at the back there.
Hmm, hmm.
It's relatively flat, but all like the plan we're looking at right there. Basically, this is from there all the way to Lime Bank. Like all of this can be developed. Like all of this will have a prime location right next to transit when it gets built because we built the transit first.
Hmm.
Like,
I like that.
mm,
So we can probably move on from line 2 and line 4 because
yeah,
we've said a lot, and we've got some other stuff we want to talk about. But there is so if you haven't been on the line yet, I mean, we have quite a few videos.
yes,
Uh, it's turning into O Train fans again from Rail Fans Canada, but why not, right? Because we're proud of the system, so we're gonna keep that
plus
up. But
it helps being local.
yeah, well, that's the big thing. Um, but there's currently videos of the station. David did the cinematic. I did another one, which you saw at the beginning of the live stream here.
Yeah.
There's a video from Bayview to Limebank that went out a few days ago. Tomorrow, I guess tomorrow probably, right? The Limebank to
Oh
Bayview
yeah, yeah, totally.
will go out.
Yeah.
And then there's already the airport one in both directions, which is kind of cool because they did a couple switches between the angles on the way to the airport because there's some points of interest more on the left than on the right in that direction.
Mm.
And then there's the original Media Day ride. So there's a lot of videos. So if you haven't had an opportunity to ride it, or the weather isn't to your liking to go out just right away, or you're busy, or you're only available on the weekend, it's not open on the
Yeah.
weekend yet, check out the YouTube channel. We got good videos so you can see where it goes, and we also got the simulator videos how the trains operate, which are really fun. So definitely lots to see, and we're gonna have more stuff coming up in the near future. And I'm planning on doing a video like like just talking about all the different stations and
Oh yeah, like
some
the
good
updated
points and
overview of
some
line 2, yeah, and line 4.
well, that's going to be more in the later on in the year, but more of like a critique of all the stations,
Oh
like
right,
what's
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting and things like that. So
Mm.
that'll probably be in the next week or two. So stay tuned for that. But we'll move on from now. We'll talk a bit more about O Train, like East and West,
Yeah.
and then we'll move on to like Ram and all that. So the East, tentatively at the last update, they told us, I don't know.
They said second
It was
half.
going to open.
Well, they
Well,
second half.
yeah. Like they said at first that they're aiming for summer 2025,
Yeah,
which they qualify as June, July, August. And then I guess someone asked a follow-up question,
and then became
and
Q3,
like a
Q4. Yeah.
minute later, like that's what kind of got me really upset. A minute later, and they said, "Well, we're looking at end of 2025, so Q4." Well, why did you say summer? So what? So I don't know.
Which one
But
is it?
anyways,
Ooh.
if we take 2020 or 2025 at face value, then maybe we'll be riding the rails going east by the end of the year. I'd
Hopefully.
really be excited about that because we go through Place Orleans a lot, so it'll be great to have that connection. You're like, why? But I like
Yeah.
that mall.
I don't get it. Like maybe I'm an hypocrite or something like that because when I used to live in Quebec, like shout out Quebec City, there's a place called Place Beauport, Promenade Beauport, sorry. That was like the closest mall to where I live, and like that's basically Place d'Orleans, but Quebec version. So I'm not really placed to trash Place d'Orleans, but I don't get it. So, and
Okay.
someone was asking in the chat before, like when we
Yeah,
started the
the
stream,
TOD.
yeah, TOD at Place d'Orleans, I know there's developments being approved around the location of the mall itself, but for the parking lots or things like that to be redeveloped right now, I don't think there's anything formally on the table. Emphasis being that formally on the table means in the sense that like it's known about, it might be in planning by the developers. Because if I was owners, like if I were the owners of this mall, I would definitely try to push to get some density going there. First of all, to help support your
Hmm.
own stores, but also like actually generate more revenue because I don't think it's viable in the long run. But anyway, that's just me.
Like the biggest thing that happened to that mall was back in I guess 2004-ish when Walmart left. And that's when the mall started going down because they lost a lot of
Yeah,
traffic
of
into
course.
that mall when the Walmart left.
Mm.
And I know because I worked there for many years and I worked at Market Fresh and we all know how Market Fresh went, right? New Year's Eve, oh, you're closing, that's it, done. Okay, thanks a lot. So that was my one of my experiences there, and I also worked somewhere else a little after that, but that was a long time ago.
Mm.
Um, but and the thing too is that like the second floor had been filled with stores
Yeah,
back in the day.
it's empty now.
And then the Bay Home Store took over pretty much half of it. The Sport Check took over the RCMP office. Now we have Service Canada and things like that that are kind of taking over the old food court because it's moved downstairs. But I mean, this is all vacant area that should be repurposed into something else because it's pretty. I'm not quite sure
Sparse.
what's going on, why that's super empty. But I mean, we could say the same thing. Well, just to finish that off, they also cut off the bigger part of the building there where the Walmart used to be.
Mm.
That was later a Target. That was later. I'm not sure what it was after that, but well, no, it was a Zellers, then it was a Target. So they shortened that. Now it's a Mark's Warehouse and Obe 44. But they've put other stuff in the parking lot, right? So like the Farm Boy in the back,
Yeah,
the RBC branch in the back. But there's probably gonna and the Mastermind Toys at the front.
yeah,
So there's been some stuff that's happened there. It would be kind of neat if those were actually in the mall, because there's definitely no shortage of space for that. But there's some obviously benefit to them having their own standalone thing.
yeah. Mm.
It's just a little more hostile if you're going from the mall to the store outside. But we can. Oh, they're moving inside. Mastermind's moving inside. Okay, well that's good. Um, but the same could be said about the missed opportunity with Place de Ville
Yeah,
downtown, right?
yeah.
Like I don't know what to say about the people that run that place. I mean, clearly there's something that doesn't click. Because there was a lot down there
Yeah,
5, 10 years ago, right? There was a card store, there was a Harry's Deli, there was restaurants, there was a flower shop, there was I mean, really all that's still there is there's like a permanent makeup. I'm not even sure what that means. Which sounds like a tattoo parlor to me.
with
The shoe
extra steps.
repair,
Yeah.
which is holding on. Yeah, the shoe repair, the Place de Ville Dental, and then there's, I guess, a Manhattan. There was an Asian food place. I think it closed. The Station Express, which is kind of like a play on the O train.
Yeah.
Subway. Guess that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many outlets down there. They renovated the place. They got new lighting, new flooring, new ceilings,
Mm.
painted the walls, just renovated all the elevators. I don't know what's going on with the like complete missed opportunity. And it's directly connected to the train. Like you would think this is like a transit-oriented development gold mine that comes right into the place. Maybe not residential, but commercial things like there's nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Complete missed opportunity. But luckily, right across the street at the Claridge Moon, there's going to be a grocery store. Maybe a
Someday.
Food Basics
Yeah.
someday. Like I don't know.
Mm.
But there's some missed opportunities here. That place is like the epitome of how you have a golden opportunity directly connected to transit. God, like it doesn't make any sense. Like every time I'm there, I'm like, how can they still not have anything plugging these holes? Like they're everywhere. The place is not even probably 20% filled. Like it
Mm.
makes no sense.
Yeah.
Ah, it drives me nuts.
Anyway, let's get back on track.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. No, but
But yeah, the East.
yeah, the east. Yeah, there's again some potential for TOD. The part I like a bit less, obviously, is it's right next to an highway. Like, maybe it could be like it's. I get why they built it where they built it. Like, I get it. Money, but
Hmm.
at the same time, like for some of the things, it's gonna make it's gonna make planning, like for some of the things, a bit more dependent on the actual landowners and the property owners right next to there. Versus, for example, Surville that has some vacant lots that were still they're owned by someone, but it's probably way more interesting for someone to come in, buy a plot that has nothing on it, and go from there to build your own development from scratch versus depending on someone else's plans so far. Like
Mhm.
this, it's a bit like Blair, for example. I think it's approved, but I think they have the plan for where the
Gloucester Center.
yeah, a Gloucester Center, but like if you have the entrance for Blair Station just across from it, like the small building. I'm not sure what's in there nowadays, but like they basically have a plan for a 28-story building there. Like plus technically, if you look at Latitude and Frontier, the two towers right next to it, they have plans for three additional towers for apartments. Then you have
Hmm.
the plot right next to it as the plans for I think something between 8 and 10 towers, each about 20 to 15 to 20 stories each. So like there is clearly potential and space to do those developments. It's just at some point it becomes a question of how much money developers want to invest in a given market at a given time, but also like how do we make sure that they are properly connected to transit and not just a sea of parking. So we'll see. Yeah, but overall, I'm really excited for for the East Extension to open. Hopefully, sooner than later. Then that would bring us to have only the West remaining in Ottawa as an active project, which is kind of crazy when we think about it, because we went from building Line One to having three massive projects all at once, and so far, as far as we're aware, there's no funding or actual plan to build anything right away when we're done with stage two.
Hmm.
Like it's gonna be on hold for how long? So that's a part of me would say just keep building. That's how you make things cheaper. If you can do more volume, things get cheaper. You don't lose the expertise, so on and so forth. But anyway, it's a
Well, I
different
mean,
conversation.
what should have happened is West should have been extended from Moody to Eagleson or
Yeah,
Terry Fox at the minimum, but
just cross the
whatever.
parkway, like sorry, just
Hmm.
cross the green belt. We talked about it before, like I mean, probably the previous RailChat or the one we did the start of last year. But yeah, it's it's opportunities like that. I think stage three as a big massive project makes sense in the planning perspective, but in a realization perspective, it should be piecemeal elements. Like we should, okay, like for example, we have the fund, like we choose to invest to have the capital funding to add 2 stops to after Moody, or we do 1 stop after Algonquin, for example, like things like that that help reduce the cost, but also make sure that you have something going on at all times. Because there's like 1-stop extensions, you can do them without disrupting the whole network.
Yeah.
Like you don't change.
Well, that's exactly what we're seeing going east and west. We're not seeing any disruption. Well, other than those occasional closures where they do some testing with the integration, but I mean that's like just a necessity, and that's not indicative of anything beyond that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we'll leave it at that with the O train. I mean, we'll try and hit a couple other spots. We'll just try to go through them quickly. Gatineau tramway, there isn't really any news other than the fact that they're continuing to do studies. And keep in mind that there was a point in time where they said it would probably be open 2026.
Yeah.
So that's next year. That's not going to happen. At this point, we'll be lucky if it even happens at all. Especially with the very likely change of government or fall of the government anytime soon with an election, maybe in 2 months or even sooner, depending on how things go with the Liberals. So I'm not totally, I've been a little on the fence with that one for a while now. I'd really love to see it happen, but the speed and pace at which things are moving is very not encouraging.
Exactly.
Yeah. So beyond that, I guess we can talk about REM in Montreal. We should see the 2 branches, Anse-à-l'Orme and Deux-Montagnes, open probably by the end of the year. There's some rumors online saying it might not be, this year might be pushed to the following year. There's some people making rumors about that. I don't know. Because what's happening right now, ever since the line opened, the communication from the REM team and CDPQ Infra has been a little disappointing, and they haven't been as open with information sharing as they used to be.
Yeah.
What reason, we don't know, but I mean, the people, at least that we used to deal with at their public relations and media relations, have left. So maybe they have a new strategy now, or they're just not prioritizing the information sharing. We don't know. But that sucks for us doing video opportunities around there and behind the scenes because nothing's happening. But hopefully that opens this year, because then theoretically, we already have O Train South, maybe East. We have those 2 branches, which are going to be very extensive. It's pretty much like adding another 60-70% of the REM network. We'd just be missing the 2 stations on the airport branch, so Marie Curie in the airport. So that's something to look forward to. And then if there's any question about will we be there for that, absolutely we'll be there for that when that opens.
Yes. When?
And then beyond that, I guess the stuff in Toronto, there's a lot of projects in Toronto. Biggest ones being the Eglinton Crosstown and the Finch West.
Yeah.
Still no real dates, but it seems like
second half.
From the second half.
Yeah.
Maybe. So hopefully we have some news on that in the near future. And as far as whether we will be there for the opening, I guess that depends on the timing and aspects of that nature.
Yeah. I plan to try to make
it is a bit of a try.
But the problem with Toronto, the problem is, what I worry about is, given the timeline of things right now, those 2 lines are, in my mind, they're not going to open at the same time, but they're going to open closely one to the other. So it makes any planning for those kind of, actually going there and try to catch the opening and everything like that becomes a bit more complicated. But it's not impossible. It's just planning wise, obviously, I guess most people would figure that out, but we both have professional careers that we have to sometimes prioritize over those events. That's why you might see sometimes events where Shane only is there, or I'm going alone, or some content, like the scheduling of the content that we do is whenever we have time. That's life. I mean, that's how we do things. And there's certain YouTubers I gotta give it to them, pumping out 3-4 videos a week. It's not for me. I wouldn't do it, but like to be able to do it is it's a massive commitment of time and like actual planning and everything around it. So all this to say that like it's not out of the question for us to be there for Toronto. It's more a question of like how things unfold. Like, are we gonna get the date a month in advance? Are we gonna get it like the week before? Is it just gonna be, oh yeah, by the way, it's opening tomorrow? Like those things matter when we plan, like on how we're able to plan along things. But I, for one, do plan to have some content at some point when it's open. I just, when exactly will that be? What content will it be? It all depends on what we're able to do. But we like it's in the same way that like I want to cover Vancouver maybe more in details in the future, or cover Calgary and Moncton, what's happening over there. But obviously there's a distance and time factor that makes those projects a bit more complicated, for example. So
I mean, what would be cool is if we had correspondents or
yeah,
contributors, from
each
you
place
know,
respectively. Yeah.
yeah.
It
But
always
but
helps,
like I
obviously,
mean,
but
we're half decent at being able to do Ottawa. Like Ottawa, we can do no problem,
yeah,
right? And then
Montreal too.
Montreal
Yeah.
is generally not an issue either. But Quebec City, well, I mean, Quebec City is still going to be a while before something opens up there. But Toronto and beyond,
Mm.
it's not feasible, right, for us to be able to be there. So we'll have stuff and content here and there, but I mean, it's not going to be to the same scope as to what we do here.
And D2, and
Um,
sorry, there's a question that's been asked in the chat just right now. What are your views about the park and ride at Limebank Station? It should never be there. I like Ballsville makes more sense for a park and ride
mhm.
station given the planning perspective for right now. Like we talked about it before, like there's a secondary master plan for around Limebank and that part of the city that basically would bring massive density. If we build a park and ride there, we're just making it more difficult to have those developments actually happen. And it's not that that much further east at Ballsville for the parking. Like I would rather see Limebank remain focused about getting people from the bus to the train once the bus connect there, or people that live right next to it actually get on the train from there. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, just to close that side chat right there. Yeah, Vancouver also, well, to get back on the distance part, Vancouver obviously is getting also the Broadway subway extension in 2028 now, they say. Like, there's gonna be a period after 2027 that all the things that are gonna happen are gonna be in the West. Because we're gonna, like, realistically, if we take the projects that are on track in Ontario right now, like, on track, Old Train West is in 2027, realistically speaking. Or Ontario, I would guess 2026. I don't think it's opening this year. Finch and Finch West, Crosstown this year, hopefully. Hamilton LRT is not until 2030 at this point. I don't think Crosstown West is making some really great strides, but I don't think it's going to be before 2030 either. So that means Ontario line is 2030. Like there's going to be a huge gap between 2027 and 2030 where everything that opens is in the West before we circle back to getting openings in Ontario or in Montreal potentially with the blue line. Well, someday, hopefully, and Quebec City someday later, hopefully. So, yeah, I think that covers the look at the really broad look at we're just doing right there. I also wanted to what was it? We talked about frequency of line one a bit earlier, Shane. I know you had a chip on your heart about it. If you want to expand on it, but you're muted, Shane. Yeah, it makes total sense. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. No, I was just gonna say, so I was out with my son on Tuesday afternoon, and I mean, as we all know, line one is currently every 10 minutes off peak.
Yeah.
And so anyways, we were downtown, so we left downtown, we walked over to Parliament, went down to the platform to go to Bayview. So we're gonna ride line two. And train just left, right? So another 10 minutes for the next train, right? Got to Bayview, elevator, like everything worked out perfect, right? Elevator was there, went down to the platform, walked to the train. Oh, door disabled, like within a second of just reaching it, right? So doors were closed, train left, another 12 minutes. So, I can understand the budget thing, but I mean, it was a bit of a cold day, and it was kind of a little frustrating. I was a little frustrated at that point because it was, well, it's like 22 minutes wasted.
Yeah,
Had everything been a minute ahead, well, I'm not sure how there would have still been. There's always some waiting,
if you
right?
miss a train
But it
that's
would
every
have it
10
would have been
minutes, you wait
better.
20 minutes.
Hmm.
Like you waste
Like
20
in
minutes
this case,
potentially.
there
Yeah.
was 22
Yeah.
minutes that was lost because one, I missed the first one, two, I just missed the second one. So hopefully, and I know line two we're governed to 12 minutes because of the track configuration and whatnot. But hopefully at some point line one can go back to 5 minutes because you know
I don't think it's a.
I
Yeah.
ride line one, but it hasn't happened every time. But when you do get there and you get down and you see the train just leaving and it's 10 minutes, like it's a real it, it it's not fun.
And then
It's
you
not
see
fun
the
at
next
all.
train arrive that's packed with students or packed with
Mhm.
people that actually have to go places. They're not just commuters that are during peak hours. Like I know a train is not full until it's cram load kind of thing. Like I get that argument that it's not full, so there's why would we run more trains? But at the same time, it kind of brings up the whole conversation about are transit riders people that are have no other choice than because they cannot afford or don't have a car, or are they people that we want to try to get on board to take the transit with us? And the two mentalities are quite disconnected because it comes down to how we choose to fund things and the priorities we have as a society. Like I personally believe that like right now I drive to work every day. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's my car's in the driveway, I think, because if I had to take the train or bus right now, it'd take me an hour 45 each day. The worst commute I've ever had on the driving was 40 minutes. And that's a guaranteed hour 45. So it's like that's even before we consider the whole 10 minutes question for the train. Like I miss the train, if I miss my bus connection, I'm waiting another 45 minutes extra or 30 minutes depending on the route. Like if I miss the train, like if I'm on the bus and I miss the train, whatever, it's 10 minutes at most. It's the return, the problem. And like acting like that's not a problem because, well, they still have more frequent service on the train than they have on most bus routes. That's true. But the people that take the train are not just like there are people in your own like as for city councilors if there's anyone watching like the ones that voted maybe that 1.6 million is totally worth nerfing the frequency on the line right now. Like if your people that you say don't have enough transit service that we're just subsidizing and giving more transit service to people downtown, don't forget that they also have to connect on the train and get back from the train.
Mhm.
Like their commute is gonna hurt way more if they miss that bus that goes every 30 45 minutes because of that one train that they miss by maybe 30 seconds or something like that. So anyway, just some food for thoughts.
Yeah.
They want
Well,
to
no, that's
yeah.
exactly it. I mean, if you miss the train, it's just another 10 minutes, right? But then that has a ripple effect if
Mm,
you're connecting to a bus afterwards. So if you were riding it right to the line, which pretty much everyone is, then that's pretty much what happens. I completely understand what Shane was describing. Perhaps city decision makers need to recognize that citizens need to be convinced that transit is a feasible solution, even if it comes at a net cost. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? I
yeah.
mean, obviously, we understand that. Okay, and then Harmonia, my biggest thing is the argument that the bus service is bad, so there's no reason to fund the train. So, as some rural councillors said, but we don't really have plans to make bus service
Yep.
better. I mean, like the whole thing here really is, I'm not qualified to comment on the bus service. I mean, I know people aren't really overly happy with the bus service right now. It depends on where you're going, how it interacts with other traffic. It gets delayed, it gets canceled. it's so late that it shows up as if the next one is early, but it's
Yeah.
super late, or it just doesn't show or gets canceled at all, or any number of situations like that, right? Then it has a ripple effect because then that bus needs to be somewhere else 20 minutes later, but it's still running the other routes, and then that one. So it's a mess, right? But we're talking especially right now about the train, and the 10-minute service is really
It's
really
the
not
ripple that's the
ideal
problem.
whatsoever.
Like,
Yeah.
anyway. Speaking of delays, can I maybe one more thing actually we might want to
Yeah.
to end
Yeah.
the
We'll
streams
do that and we'll
shortly.
wrap it up, I
Yeah.
guess.
Via rail. Oh boy. It's been a few rough weeks, well, months at this point. So if you've been outside the loop, I'm gonna go really quickly there, but CN imposed a restriction so on any Siemens Venture train sets that basically they supposedly do not trigger grade crossing protection equipment with sufficient time. So I don't know the numbers on top of my head right now, but say it's 40, it needs to be triggered 45 seconds in advance. Well, it might be lower than that. So as a result, trains have to slow down, which potentially leads to delays, but also leads to potential unsyncing of the network, so that it has again a ripple effect, because the train that you take from Montreal to Toronto, well, guess what? It's going somewhere else afterwards. If you arrive an hour late, that train departs potentially an hour late, depending on the turnaround times. So, if there's one thing I like to watch watch in my free time is transit asm.transitdocs.com. So for those who are not familiar, that's basically all the passenger rail service in North America. It's like it's I think it grabs the data from the VIA API and from the Amtrak API, so you're able to see where they're on the network, but also like if they're running late and when they're going to reach each station. And you know what? Let's do a quick exercise right now. Like, I'll just open that and do asm.transit docs. I know it's .com, I just got lazy, but so let's look at some trains. This is 42 via 42 from so I guess from Toronto to Ottawa. It's right now 53 minutes late. 644 is 23 minutes late. The 47 is an hour and a half late onward to Toronto. So it's a worrying trend that those delays are increasing and becoming more frequent, because I believe yesterday I was looking at some trains that depart from Quebec. So like I'm pretty sure the 26th yesterday was about 3 hours late. It's, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, I get that delays can occur. Like there's some, it's a side effect of having a shared network, but at some point I have to wonder, like, it cannot just be the grade crossing question that brings 3 hour delays on those trips, because I've in the last few days there's been quite a few trips I've seen that were over 3 hours of delay, 2 hours, 1 hour 50, 1 hour 30. Like for a passenger that plans to get to a destination that takes, for example, the first train in the morning and has meetings from Montreal, say at it's a 5 hour trip right now, I think, or something that ballpark. Plans to get there around, say, 1 p.m. because they have meetings in the afternoon. Imagine being delayed 3 hours. You lost your day. Basically, you did the trip for nothing if the whole reason you're there is for meetings in the afternoon. So I kind of hope that we get some light enlightenment about that whole situation. Like obviously I'm not in network planning. I'm not in transit operations management. Like that's not my field. My field is really more finance, project management at large, like those kind of things in life. But it's something that really worries me, because if I was on that train, like, and Shane, maybe I'll open the question to you too. Like, if you're on a train that's supposed to take 5 hours but ends up taking 8 hours, would you book the train again?
No.
There you go. That's that. Like,
I mean, if it's not reliable, then you're not going to do it. And that's why a lot of people, even like with transit or anything like that,
we complain about trains being
if you have
10
a
minutes.
bad
Like, yeah,
experience,
we complain
yeah,
about
and
bus
there's no
being
certainty.
5-10 minutes early or late. So why do we consider it acceptable for most trains to run Like I would love to see a number from VRL about the average delay per route. So like the average train from Ottawa to Toronto, the average train from like Ottawa to Quebec City and stops in between. Like I'm pretty sure if someone's willing enough to do what's it, a FOIA or a request for information, like anyway, I never remember the acronym in French because I always have the US one in mind. But I'd be really curious to know what is the average delay throughout the network right now for trips, because that map is not perfect. Obviously, it depends on what data is reported by VRL, but and in their API and so forth. And same thing for Amtrak, but it's a trend that's been really I have a feeling been worsening in recent months. Maybe I'm just looking at it like the wrong way. Maybe it's been improving. I don't know, but it's worrying that like yesterday I looked at the map like around 4 p.m. and there were 3 trains that were 3 hours delayed at the minimum. On trips are supposed to take 5, 4, 3, 2 hours. I don't think it's acceptable. I don't think anyone is willing to take a gamble that their train might be 3 hours late to where they need to go. And I really hope there's concrete action, because HFR, as much as it's a thing that might happen in the future potentially, depending on how the government feels about it, the problem is that's 10 years down the road at the minimum right now. So we need a solution for those next 10 years. New trains are great. I love sitting in them. They're really, I think they're a great step up to what we had before. And the question of grade crossings is probably, it's something that probably needs to be sorted out between VRL and CN themselves, and probably many agencies and other parties involved too. But like, I have some difficulty believing that the 3-hour delay on a route like Montreal, Toronto, or the alternative to Quebec City can be just attributed to those train sets, because it's not just those train sets have the delays. Like it's a network thing at this point. So it's been a bit
And I
of a
think
bummer.
the other, yeah, I think the other point too is, let's say you're going to, let's say Ottawa to Montreal, right?
Yeah.
You're going for a meeting. You leave early in the morning, and then you want to come back like by supper time, right? Well, if your train is delayed, then you could miss your meeting.
Yeah.
Or if it's really significantly delayed, like let's say you're going to Toronto and you're coming back, right?
Yeah.
Well, then your whole trip, so you missed the purpose of your trip, and then you missed the trip to come back.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at one point it's like, should I just get off in Oakville or Ajax or Whitby and then wait for the train heading back the other way and catch it then? Like, I mean, it's, if you can't depend on it, then you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect way to turn people off from this. So Whiskey Canuck.
This might have been quite lucky. Yeah.
I wonder if that's Kiefer Sutherland. Well, but because he sings, right? And he's got a song, Not Enough Whiskey in the World Tonight or something. I must be crazy lucky. I've never been on a VIA trip that was significantly late. Montreal to Toronto, Quebec to Ottawa, but I only do one of those trips once or twice a year. So I mean, like, there's probably a lot of people where they don't have an issue with their commuting or their travels, and then there's a lot of people that do. But the uncertainty is what makes or breaks it, right? And that you cannot plan for, and it just happens spontaneously. And it's almost like, it's not like there was a delay or there was a problem. It's like an artificial issue that could be corrected due to the shared use of the track and just stupidity from the owner of the infrastructure making life difficult for its shared occupant of the system.
And
so, anyways,
like, it's easy to point fingers and say, oh, it's CN's fault. It's not just CN track. Well, as you get closer to Toronto, it's not just CN track. For the most part, it's CN track east of Toronto, I should say. But the nature of the issue being that, like, as you say, predictability is a really important point. And it's something I feel we complain about for local transit. But the thing is, for routes that are way longer, like an hour delay being it adds up. Like, in my personal experience, I've been on I believe the only time I've been delayed is an hour. It was between Ottawa and Quebec City one time, but I used to take VRL like like 6-8 times a year. Like I'm not gonna claim I was a frequent like someone that commutes on VRL all the time, but like I I can think during my whole undergrad at university in Ottawa, like one very specific delay. The rest was like 5-10 minutes maybe. Like 5-10 minutes is it's fine. It's not in the grand scheme of things on a 6-hour trip. That's like nothing. It's when we start talking about hour-long delays, 2 hours, 3 hours on trips that should take 5 hours.
Not acceptable.
I think it's not acceptable, and like it's easy. Like sure, there's the CN issues. There's the whole question about the track zonage and like who owns the track and who has priority on them. But at the same time, like, is it fair to think it's like Occam's razor would tell us that like it's well, is it Occam's razor? I don't recall. Like those courses have been a while, but sometimes the simplest explanation is the best. Like, what is the simplest explanation? Is it the case that there's not enough funding for VIA to actually like negotiate good terms with CN? Is it a case that CN is extremely hostile towards VRL and is doing whatever in their power to make sure that CN doesn't want to use their tracks? Is it actually like an actual issue with the Siemens Venture trains that CN has identified but no one else? It's impossible to say because we don't get that information from any source. First of all, like it's also like I just want to emphasize right now. Well, all I'm saying is speculation. I'm just pitching ideas at the wall. But like the simplest explanations right now, they're not looking good for anyone involved. Like if we have a train network that's not able to run on time or close to on time, and the situation worsens and there's no actual remedy to that, obviously I get the frustration of passengers, and like it's difficult for me to tell someone take the train when I know that at the end of their trip they might be 2-3 hours late. Like if you're not in a rush, sure, it's great, you got your trip for free. But if you have actually something to do, like just fly, take the bus. Like even the bus feels more reliable at this point. And like I don't like the bus. Like I'm sorry, but what's the expression? Pull de luxe, Shane. I think you know what I'm talking about there. But I consider myself to like fancy stuff in life, and like I really enjoy taking business class on the train. Economy is fine too, but I don't like taking the bus, like especially not for long distance trips. So, but it's at that point that maybe taking the bus saves you money, gets you there on time. It might be worth the compromise for a lot of people. So, anyway, I feel like we're being depressing enough now.
Well, I guess we'll wrap it there.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you again to my co-host, David Bellarive.
How dare you?
Well,
I'll mute your mic.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I'm joking. Anyway.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, it was great having everyone.
Have a good night.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you all on Monday. For those of you that could make it there, hopefully more opportunities in the future, and hopefully many openings in 2025. I think that's what we're gonna wish as our closing thought. Like open them lines, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 2024 was a bit of a bust, so
yeah.
2025 has already started off on a high note.
Yeah.
Let's hope it keeps up.
Yeah. I still recall I finished my my 2024 my 2022 project wrap up with like there's so much to look forward to in 2024. Anyway. So I think that's it for us tonight. Quick reminder, obviously, I think it's a good time to plug in everything we do. So RailFans Canada is not just a YouTube channel. It's also a website, railfans.ca, a map.railfans.ca, a Discord server. I think it's discord.railfans.ca, right? Yeah. Social medias.
Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram, and occasionally on X, but
Twitter. No,
post on X really
Twitter,
much.
Yeah.
Okay, we say Twitter.
Yeah. So what we post on Twitter might be announcements more like actual content we do, we're not going to share on X. It's mostly going to be announcements for people that might still be on the platform that want to be aware of what's happening, either events or stuff like that. But our primary platform nowadays is definitely Blue Sky, Threads, and Instagram. And I guess Facebook for those that are still there. But really the best place to be in touch with what's happening with Railfans Canada is really our Discord server and website. That's where we try to have most of the information up to date on time. And also a quick shout out to the store.railfans.ca, where we have it's been, I think, a great success so far, but we have our very own merch collection. Some of the designs include the...
Put it on the screen. Put it on the screen.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you're right. We have a screen. We can share it, but like...
Let's pop it on the screen.
Yeah, let's just pop it there. But we have our very own collection of merch, including t-shirts that feature the design of the transit lines here that we often discuss, including the O train in the style of the Railfans map. We have Montreal, Toronto, the metro itself. That was Shane's special request. Vancouver. We also have them as posters, stickers, and an exclusive design that I really like, the classic inspired Railfans sticker. That's for those that don't get the joke, it's a tilted wafer, ergo it's classic. But it started as a joke on the in the chat on the Discord server, but it's been really one of the most popular items actually on the store. So if you want to check it out, it's store.railfans.ca. So far the feedback's been really great. So hopefully we hope to have more designs to add in the future. Obviously it takes time, but if you have any suggestions or any ideas, feel free to share them in the Discord. And I think that's it. I think that's the shelling part done. So we shelled for stuff. Now we can close up.
RailChat 11 has come to a close. That's it. So thanks again, everyone, for watching. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you to the rail projects that are opening this year. Hopefully they follow through and don't disappoint, because it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah. Here's to a massive 2025.
There we go.
All right.
So thanks again, everyone. And I think right now we can roll the credits.